It has brought the 21st century world to a grinding halt. Lockdown countries, grounded transport, emptied out public spaces, separated people from their families, left in a lurch the marginalized. Forcing millions to migrate, businesses to shutter down, causing economies to crash across the globe. Exposed chinks in healthcare systems, exposed the lack of time-sensitive leadership, exposed fault lines in political systems across the world, disrupted modern society in a way it has never witnessed before.
इतने देश युद्ध से प्रभावित नहीं हुए थे जितने आज कोरोना की इस बीमारी से हैं.
I've always known this is a pandemic. I felt it was a pandemic long before it was called a pandemic. All you had to do is look at other countries.
O sustento das famílias deve ser preservado. Devemos sim voltar à normalidade.
The more effectively we follow the advice that we are given, the faster this country will stage both a medical and an economic recovery.
Но, слава богу, пока нет такого масштаба, как в некоторых других странах у нас.
ということについて、バッハ会長と確認をいたしました。
The virus has now spread to almost every country on the map. It has killed more than 20,000 across the world as of now. Until 26th of March, it had already infected close to 500,000 people around the world. At least those are the ones that we know about and have tested. There may be many who remain undetected. On 1st of January 2020, one day after the Chinese government informed the World Health Organization about a kind of pneumonia from an unknown cause, not many across the world knew about the existence of the virus. 3 months later, SARS-CoV-2 or Covid19, as this particular strain of virus came to be known as, is all that the world can now talk and think about.
Now, the virosphere is what the world is exploring today. Virologists, the most sought-after experts, and laboratories who are testing vaccines to find a way that can combat the virus. The only playground still alive. But how did the virus emerge? How did it mutate? How did it spread and travel across oceans? How did it reach your city? What is the tale of the COVID-19 virus?
December 2019, Chinese media reported a new viral outbreak. Cases of a viral form of pneumonia from unknown sources emerged in Wuhan. By the end of the month, reports of patients with similar symptoms in other cities emerged. While doctors and epidemiologists figure out what is causing the outbreak, those infected in turn infect others. Within days, thousands more are infected, creating an invisible network. Travel through this region continues unabated. The outbreak spreads to other regions of China. January 2020, as international travel continues through China, the virus spread picks up pace. From Bangkok to New York, infected but at times asymptomatic people carry the virus to different countries. India reports its first case of the virus in Kerala. February 2020, as infected travelers move undetected, the virus spreads further. WHO names the virus Covid19. Outbreaks are reported in over 26 countries. The virus starts spreading locally. A pandemic begins. March 2020. Covid-19 cases in India start increasing. People with travel history from Europe and Middle East test positive. India starts contact tracing and testing more people. By 26th March, India reported around 700 Covid-19 cases. Medical experts suspect cases of community transmission. Europe becomes the epicenter of the pandemic. Italy and Spain report more fatalities than China. The number of people infected in the US crossed that of China. Outbreak is severe with no clear end point for the ongoing transmission. Countries go under lockdown to quarantine citizens and stop viruses from spreading.
Now, as country after country goes under lockdown, partial or complete, one thing is clear. Containment strategies only work to slow down the spread of the virus. But there is no cure yet for COVID-19. The death toll globally has surged past 24,000. The race to bring an effective vaccine is getting intense by the day. Here's a special report.
As an anxious world waits for a cure for COVID-19, 35 companies and academic institutions are racing against time to create such a vaccine. One of them, a US-based biotech from Moderna, has even started its human trial phase. In an unusual move, Moderna skipped the animal test phase that vaccines go through before it is administered on humans. Other scientists are at the animal research stage and hope to get the results of human trials later this year. The unprecedented speed is largely possible because of early Chinese effort to sequence the genetic material of SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19. China shares the genetic sequence in early January, allowing the WHO and research groups to work toward a vaccine. So how far are we from a vaccine? SARS-CoV-2, as the virus is called, shares between 80% and 90% of its genetic material with other forms of coronaviruses that causes SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome, and MERS, Middle East respiratory syndrome. Scientists had already been working on developing effective vaccines to combat the SARS, MERS, and are now repurposing them to develop vaccines against COVID-19. The SARS-CoV-2 is a novel pathogen in humans, and many of the technologies being used to build vaccines are relatively untested. For the COVID-19 vaccine, researchers are also experimenting with new ways of constructing a vaccine. For the first time, the genetic code of the virus from its RNA is being used to build a vaccine. No vaccine made from genetic material, RNA or DNA, has ever been approved till date. These vaccines are still in their early clinical trial phases and are at least 12 to 18 months away from use. So despite immense pressure to approve the vaccines quickly, stringent safety testing needs to be conducted to rule out the risk of enhanced diseases before it rolled out for the public. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization has launched a multi-country drive called Solidarity to isolate drugs already approved by regulators for other diseases that can be utilized to fight COVID-19. The reason they are looking at already safety-tested drugs is that these do not need lengthy clinical trials and many are already on the market. But finding a vaccine that works is not the ultimate solution. Providing it in time to people who need it across the globe will still be the biggest challenge.
Now, yesterday, I spoke to Dr. David Nabarro of the World Health Organization. He's their special envoy on COVID-19. We asked him all about the myths, theories, and questions related to the novel coronavirus. But I also asked him that crucial question: how long will it take for the world to get a vaccine to take on coronavirus? Here's what he had to say.
A vaccine will probably be developed quite quickly. There are already some candidates being discussed, but having a candidate in a laboratory is one thing. Having vaccine administered to the whole world population is another thing. There are a lot of steps to go through. Steps in terms of testing for efficacy, testing for safety, testing for uptake and whether or not there are side effects. And then once all that has been done, different countries have to be able to register the vaccine for use in their populations. Then there has to be scale up of manufacture. Then people have to be trained to administer it, and populations need to be ready to receive it. Vaccine will take at least 18 months, according to all the experts in this kind of work, partly because coronavirus is not a virus against which we have a huge amount of experience of success in developing vaccines. So there is going to be wonderful work done by researchers. It's already happening all over the world. But then we have to get the regulation work done, the safety testing done, of course, the manufacture, the scale up, the administration. 18 months is my estimate.
So we're still about 18 months away, 12 to 18 months away from finding a vaccine. Now, SARS-CoV-2, that is what the virus has been named scientifically. The cause of the pandemic, it belongs to a large family of viruses. Some of its siblings cause minor illnesses like the common cold, while other coronaviruses have triggered far more devastating epidemics like SARS and MERS. So what do we know about this virus? Take a look.
In shape, the SARS-CoV-2 looks like a spiky ball. The spikes also resemble the irregular halo around the sun, which is why the family name is called corona, like that around the sun. Those spikes recognize and stick to a protein found on the surface of our cells. And that's how an infection begins. In December 2019, out of the first 40-odd COVID-19 patients hospitalized in the months that followed, the world and scientists learned a lot about the virus. Here's what we know. SARS-CoV-2 causes the COVID-19 disease. Each virus consists of a small set of genes enclosed by a sphere of fatty lipid molecules. Individual coronaviruses are easily destroyed because lipid shells can be easily torn apart by soap. 20-second thorough hand washing works. SARS-CoV-2 survives for different lengths of time on different surfaces. When a COVID-19 infected person sneezes, the virus can remain in air for up to 3 hours in a confined space. Less than a day on cardboard, up to 2 to 3 days on steel and plastic. People acquire the virus through air or after touching the contaminated surfaces. These viruses don't survive in the world on their own. They need a host. They need bodies to survive, so the best way to stay safe is to stay at home and stay away from those who are sick, and avoid touching your eyes, nose and mouth. By 26 March, the scientific community had discovered another essential part of the jigsaw to find a cure to this pandemic. They declared the virus was not mutating much as it transferred from human to human. Usually, viruses evolve over time as it replicates imperfectly inside a human body. As it makes its way through a population multiplying in large numbers, mutations occur. The virus evolves and adds on new characteristics, thus changing its genetic code. In case of virus samples collected from patients of COVID-19, virologists say the mutations are not happening quickly enough. Which translates to the genetic composition of the virus hasn't evolved much as it traveled from Wuhan to Spain, thus making it easier for labs to make a long-lasting vaccine.
Now, with cases of coronavirus surging across India, the big question remains, are we testing enough? Across the world, many believe that unless you test more like South Korea is, you can never conquer the disease. Take a look.
Is the second largest populated country in the world testing enough? Looking at the spine-chilling fatalities from countries like Italy, India has now decided to open testing of COVID-19 to private players.
प्राइवेट लैबोरेटरीज को हमने अप्रूव करना शुरू कर दिया है। उनमें से 22 जो लैब चेन्स हैं, उनको हमने आज की तारीख पे उनको अप्रूव किया है। इन लैब्स की टोटल कलेक्शन सेंटर्स अगर हम देखें तो 15,500 कलेक्शन सेंटर्स सारे देश में फैले हुए हैं।
The testing rules for private players are clear. A prescription by a government doctor or a private doctor with proper credentials and a hospital stamp that says you need to be tested. An identity card is mandatory for a test by a private lab. A full disclosure form called Form 44 would need to be signed before the test. All private labs are mandated to collect samples from home and disclose results to Indian Council of Medical Research. So how much will testing by a private lab cost? The Indian Council of Medical Research has capped testing cost by private players to 4,500 rupees, an amount that is still far too expensive for a regular Aam Aadmi. Something that public policy consultant Hemraj Singh is campaigning against through an online petition campaign asking the government to reduce the prices of COVID-19 tests for senior citizens and others in need.
If one person has a symptom, his whole family needs to be tested, which is around 22,000 rupees is what a family needs to spend. I'm talking about a middle class family.
Just imagine each test costs 4,500. If one person is tested positive, then his entire family is to be tested. That's 20,000 for a family of 4. Now imagine a rickshaw puller or auto driver. They won't be able to test in turn, end up spreading the virus further. Hence the price has to be lowered so that it benefits all.
We don't do massive testings. We will not be able to understand the size of the problem. And if we are not able to understand the size of the problem, we will not be able to make policies, plans, strategies according to it. So for the better control of COVID-19 for the better control, we have to start pressurizing government so that they take all the steps necessary in the direction.
India today went inside one of the commercial testing labs to get you a sense of how these private labs are now going about testing for coronavirus.
वहाँ पर एक मशीन होती है, इसको कि रियल टाइम पीसीआर मशीन बोलते हैं, और रियल टाइम पीसीआर मशीन में डालकर उसका टेस्ट करा जाएगा। जब रिपोर्ट जैसी तैयार होगी वो इमीडिएटली सरकारी पोर्टल के ऊपर डाल दी जाएगी, और जो अंदर टेस्ट भी कर रहे हैं दे आर फुली प्रोटेक्टेड। वो एक तरह का आप समझ लीजिए एक स्पेस सूट की तरह पहन के रहते हैं। एंड उसके बाद रिपोर्टिंग होगी, जब रिपोर्ट निकलेगी विच बी चेक्ड बाय आवर मॉलिक्यूलर बायोलॉजी टीम। आफ्टर रिपोर्ट्स आर चेक्ड, जब वो रिलीज करी जाएंगी, दो सैंपल नेगेटिव आएंगे, उनके पास हमें कुछ दिन तक रखने के लिए जैसे वी आर फॉलोइंग जो पूरी गाइडलाइन रखी जाएगी। जो पॉजिटिव सैंपल होंगे उनका एनआईवी पुणे भेजा जाएगा जब भी पेशेंट की रिजल्ट रिलीज करा जाएगा।
There are also reports of false negatives in testing, with a few people testing negative only to test positive later. The virus needs time to manifest in the body, making it possible for a person to be a carrier and yet not test positive. Therefore, if one is quarantined and a suspect carrier and has tested negative, he might need to take another test on the 14th day of quarantine. In a country where there is only one doctor per 11,600 Indians, only one available hospital bed every 1,826 Indians, there are two big takeaways for our country. Stay home, India. Stay alive. And test, test, and test more, India. Like your life depends on it.
Test, test, and more test. It's a question I also asked Dr. Nabarro yesterday. I asked him about the slow rate of testing in India. What should be the strategy going forward as the number of cases increase? Here's what he had to say.
The World Health Organization is clear. Testing for virus is an important part of the response strategy. It's hard to be able to get communities to interrupt transmission if they have no clear idea of how much virus there is in their area. So the testing is really useful. And some countries like South Korea have used widespread testing as a mainstay of their response. But we have to be realistic. There are an awful lot of other countries that are doing very little testing, including some countries in Europe. What can you do then? Answer, you have a high index of suspicion that everybody with a high fever, a dry cough, and chest pain and shortness of breath, and it's a pretty standard pattern, should be assumed to have COVID unless otherwise shown, and should be isolated immediately their symptoms appear. And if it's possible to isolate them from other members of their household, that should happen. Otherwise, as is happening in many countries, the whole household should be isolated for the 14 days in each case until we are sure that the disease is finished and others have had a chance to show whether or not they're infected.
So the challenge remains to test more and hopefully one day to have a vaccine that will ensure a cure for coronavirus. Till then, stay home, stay safe. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.